when I was listening to that introduction of me, I was thinking, it's amazing what you can do with other people's money. I'm delighted to be here. And don't tell anyone this, but of all the places that I'm invited to speak, multi-district pets are my favorite. There are big stages, there are big names on the stage this afternoon. We've got a past Rotary International president, a future Rotary International president. There may be other future Rotary International presidents in this room that we don't know about yet. And every one of the plenary speakers will agree with me that the future of our organization lies with every single one of you presidents-elect here in this room. Our clubs are where the work of Rotary takes place, or alternately does not take place, where we can make a sustainable difference, or alternately fail to act. That's why the Rotary Glitterati have made the trip here. It's because the promise of Rotary, the magic of Rotary, the future of Rotary is in your hands. No pressure. Now, we've already talked about who has the longest tenure in Rotary and who has the shortest tenure in Rotary. I'd like to know how many of you that are in this room are encore presidents. That is, how many of you are presidents of your Rotary Club the second time around, or maybe a multiple of the second time around? Got some hands here? Thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership, thank you for your service, and I have a special request for you this afternoon. In the breakouts this weekend, think about what you know now that you wish you knew then. And be polite about it, but share that information with the newbies. Because as encore presidents, you have an awful lot of information, all of it earned the hard way, right, in the School of Hard Knocks, so don't keep it to yourself. And we've already gone through, as I say, who's been here for how long. The point is, there is an awful lot of knowledge in this room. There's an awful lot of information in this room. And if you learn only one thing at PETS, let it be that there are plenty of people in your district and in this multi-district PETS who are here to support you. Everybody wants you to be a success. The speakers, the facilitators, your governor, assistant governors. All of us are willing and want to help, but let me tell you something. We're not mind readers. If you want help, you're going to have to ask. So that's my reach out to you. Don't be embarrassed to ask. We want to help. Now, my goal today is to talk about the Rotary Foundation and big, bodacious goals, and how you can use those goals to strengthen and grow your club. The Rotary Foundation has a lot of bodacious goals. Eliminating a disease from the world, promoting girls and women, ensuring that every child has an education and every human being has clean drinking water, ensuring the future of our planet. These are big goals. And here I am in a room full of club presidents-elect, and we've just agreed that yours is the most important role in Rotary, the role where things get done or alternatively don't get done. And I know what you are all thinking. I know because I remember full well when I was at my own multi-district PETS going into my presidential year. The year was 2006, and then Rotary International President-elect Bill Boyd and a whole coterie of Rotary big names were all there. This was in Massachusetts, all sharing highfalutin thoughts. And as they spoke, I could only think of one thing. What am I going to do about the old guys sitting at the curmudgeon table every week? So believe me, I get it. It's all too easy to come to Rotary events and listen to the speeches and to wonder if you are the only person in the room burdened with the reality of figuring out how to get enough volunteers to sign up to make the Saturday morning event take place, how to find the resources to get the project underway, what to do about those minimums required by the caterer. Trust me, Everyone in this room shares those concerns. Everyone in this room shares those concerns. And I'm here to tell you, whatever your insecurities, whatever your club's immediate issues, you can use Rotary's big, bodacious goals. You can use the Rotary Foundation to strengthen your club. In fact, I believe it's the only way to sustainably grow your club, even if right now you're feeling the opposite of bodacious. Now, you've heard a lot about making your club irresistible, and you've heard a lot about the club action plan. Part of irresistibility is to make sure that meetings start and end on time, and that food is of sufficient quality, and so on and so forth. Of course, without those basics, people won't show up. But an even more essential part of irresistibility has to do with the service that your club does. Because here's the secret of your success. Here's the secret of the success of your club. People don't join Rotary because they want to go to a meeting. Whether it's a weekly meeting or it's twice monthly, we all have enough meetings to go to. People join Rotary because they want to make a difference. Now, I joined Rotary in the fall of 2003. I've already told you I was at PETS in the spring of 2006, so you probably think that I was some sort of gung-ho Rotarian right from the beginning. And nothing could be more wrong. In fact, my first 6 or so months at the club, I didn't get it. My club was anything but irresistible. And the action plan, well, we might have planned, but we didn't act. Oh, the speakers are pretty good at the club meetings, and back then my club was a singing club. And between the off-key singing, the insider jokes, and the Rotary acronyms, I'd had enough. There were other ways to meet people in our community. There were other places I could do service. And these other ways come without attending a weekly meeting and paying dues. I was ready to quit. But in my club, we sign up for housekeeping duties on a monthly basis. And after all, I have to see these people at the supermarket and at the car repair. So I decided I would stick it out for the end of the month, do the housekeeping duties that I'd signed up to do, and then I'd just slowly disappear. And then it happened. It could have been anything. It happened to be a speaker who spoke about a project to build homes for AIDS orphans in East Africa. Someone had turned off the lights so we could see the slides. And I remember sitting in the dark, tears running down my cheeks, not because of the need. I lived in New York City during the 80s, and there's not too much you can tell me about broken dreams and HIV/AIDS. It was because a member of my club, an ordinary guy, had actually gotten his vaccines and actually gotten on an airplane and actually gone to East Africa to do something tangible for these kids. He'd not just written a check. I guess he'd done that as well, but that wasn't the point. The point was he'd actually given of himself. And then the presentation ended, and it was time for me to clear the tables, so I dried my tears and I got to work. But not before I made a promise to myself that maybe, just maybe, if I stuck with this Rotary thing and put up with those acronyms, then someday I too might be able to go on an international service trip. And that's how, almost exactly 1 year later, my husband Frank and I found ourselves on a flight to Guatemala to work at Safe Passage, a literacy program for children whose parents are pickers on the city dump. It helps them get a good education. My plan was simple. We'd volunteer in the classrooms during the week, and then on Saturday, we'd fly to Tikal, the Mayan temple site. We'd do some sightseeing, and then we'd fly home and pick up our lives where we left off. And for the first few days of our trip to Guatemala, that's pretty much what happened. And then on Friday, the last day of the school week, we were signed up to take the littlest kids to the Guatemala City Zoo. These little kids were little. They were preschoolers, aged 3 and 4. And Guatemala City actually has a pretty nice zoo. The children were so excited. They'd all brought permission slips signed by their mothers, invariably with an X. I was excited as well. What's not to be excited about taking little children to a zoo? And I'd spent the evening before practicing Spanish names for African animals. Elefante, jirafe, cocodrilo. I need not have bothered. It was the first time these little kids had ever been away from the shanty town they call home, away from the smells and the sights of the dump. The first time they'd ever been on a bus. They were screaming for joy the first time the bus hit a pothole. It was better than a roller coaster. They were overstimulated before we ever got to the zoo. And when we did, they were overwhelmed by park bench, green grass, shady tree. Quite frankly, the animals required more attention than these kids had available to give them. Now, I was paired with Elena and Roy. One little person at the end of my arms. They're reaching up, I'm reaching down. There was an incident halfway during the morning, and from then on, my husband Frank always referred to Roy as Stinky Pants Roy. Elena was wearing her best dress. Her mother didn't know how to dress her for a trip to the zoo. She dressed her for a trip out, and she was wearing one of these fancy little gowns. Now, I've traveled in developing countries before. I'd seen shanty towns, I'd seen dump villages, but I realized it was the first time that I'd ever talked to the dump kids, the first time I'd ever learned their names, the first times I ever wondered if they had dreams. It was a wonderful morning, a sticky morning after we introduced the kids to soft-serve ice cream. And at morning's end, we stood in the parking lot waving goodbye. I was crying again, crying because the children have so little and I have so much, crying because I'm no smarter, no better looking than those kids' mothers. It's just the accident of my birth and a few smart decisions along the way. More honestly, a few dumb decisions that didn't catch up with me along the way. That's all that divides me from them. It all seems so unfair, and my silly first world problems so ridiculous. And then I remembered that through the Rotary Foundation, I could actually do something meaningful for these kids, that I could touch their lives in sustainable ways. And so when I returned home, I invited myself to join my club's international committee, and I wrote my first grant. In those days, they were called matching grants, and then another one. And then Hurricane Katrina wiped out New Orleans, a city that I love. And I discovered that it's possible through Rotary Foundation grants to do things right here at home. It doesn't have to be in another country. And by that time, I'd been invited onto my district's foundation committee, and the rest of the story is one you can imagine. But the point is, you can draw a direct line between that night when I was ready to quit my club, but learned instead about the work of the Rotary Foundation and international service, and me standing in front of you this morning. And that, my friends, is why your club needs big, bodacious goals, and why it needs the Rotary Foundation, the 501c3 that funds all the work that we do. And the thing that is remarkable, unique, about the Rotary Foundation is that it's the only charity I know of anywhere in which the Board of Trustees does not decide how the money is spent. Oh yes, we decide policy. Of course, we decide policy. But it's up to you as club presidents and as district officers to decide how we spend the money that we collectively raise and which projects it will go to. Now, if you think about this, this is remarkable. I get a lot of letters from my alma mater, all asking for money. I assume you do as well. I have never yet gotten a letter that says, should we invest in a new engineering building? Or maybe in humanities and arts? Or maybe in international scholarships? But essentially, that's exactly what the Rotary Foundation does. And along the way, the foundation has racked up 16 years of Charity Navigator's highest rankings. We work in 190 countries. We work in 7 languages. We work in God knows how many accounting systems and lack of accounting systems. We work in 32 currencies. I think that's the current number. And we get kudos both for our management and our transparency. Any CPAs in the room? Does this sound nuts? And yet we do it. The Rotary Foundation does it. Wow. So if you want to strengthen your club, if you want it to grow it, if you want to make it more irresistible, look for opportunities through the Rotary Foundation. Now, the most common means are global grants, but if you're not feeling bodacious enough for global grants, start with a district grant. The rules for district grants are, guess what, set up by each district, and they're all different. So I think you're going to be talking about this afternoon in your breakouts, and in any event, sign up for your district's grant management seminar, find out what's involved, and get involved. More important, get your club members involved. Delegation, right? Don't try and do it all yourself, it won't work. And remember, whether they speak about it in these terms or not, that is why your club members joined Rotary. They joined Rotary to get things done. They joined Rotary to make a difference. What kind of a project, I hear you say? Well, I was lucky because I found mine tailor-made in the Rotary Peace Centers, which is one of Rotary's goals. But please, don't be constrained by what Rotary has set up as its priorities. If they work for you, great. If they don't, then help your club develop its own. There are myriad issues out there to help you that you can draw from. Is there food insecurity in your community? Is there sufficient affordable housing? Does bullying exist in your schools? Does your community do a good job welcoming immigrants and other newcomers? Visioning, which is Rotary's version of long-term planning, can be very helpful to you and your members to figure out what your goals should be. Now use that big bodacious goal to engage your existing members and, yes, to attract new ones to the club. Be known as the organization in town that is actively working to support veterans or to create new after-school programs. Start with a community assessment to figure out what the needs are, what's already being done, and where the gaps are. There's plenty of information on Rotary.org on how to do a community assessment. All the stuff on community.org, on Rotary.org, I know it's hard to find, but it's paid for with your membership dollars, so come on, use it. Schedule speakers on your topic. Ask local nonprofits what they are doing, where the gaps are, and what your club can do to fill those gaps. Hold public forums. Be known as the organization in town that is working to reach that goal. Get other clubs involved. Believe me, if your community has an issue such as one of the ones I just mentioned, you aren't the only community in the area that has that issue. It's probably a very common issue. And these other clubs could absolutely use expertise on the topic. Share it. Find other clubs in your district and beyond with similar ambitions. Find a Rotary action group dedicated to the purpose. They will have already done a lot of the groundwork, so you won't have to repeat it, and they're only one website away. And here's what you need to remember. Rotary has data on why people join Rotary, and it comes down to service and friendship. Rotary also has data on why people leave Rotary. And the reality is people don't leave Rotary. They leave the club. The folks who stop paying their dues continue to hold our values. But either they got caught up in club politics, or the meetings were too expensive, or they were at a time during the week when it was inconvenient, or they considered them a waste of time. And get this, fully half the people who join Rotary are gone in 2 to 3 years. Fully half the people who join Rotary are gone in 2 to 3 years. We don't have a problem getting people to join us. We have a problem getting them to stay with us. If they do stay with us for 3 years, they probably stay for a good long time. Which takes us back to the need for irresistible clubs and our action plan, and why you, as club presidents-elect, are best positioned to grow Rotary. In fact, you and your club boards are the only Rotarians positioned to do so. So yes, make sure your meetings are irresistible, and then take on that community issue that needs to be addressed. Own it. And when you do, I promise you, you will change your club, you will also change your community. So God bless you, and good luck.